Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 16. It says here, "And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs towards the temple of God, and their faces towards the east, and they worshipped the sun towards the east." So, this is a typical example of idolatry. People idolizing the creation over the creator. So this is what God terms idolatry, of which we were told to stay away from. Which cases do we see this in the modern day that we are living in? We're living in it at a time where religion is almost fused into society, where every decision that we make is influenced somewhat by some sort of religion, be it traditional religion, Christianity, or people who consider themselves non-religious. They have to antagonize something. If they are atheists, they have to base their lives from saying God doesn't exist. So everything that we do has to be influenced by some sort of religious mechanism. But then it easily gets misplaced because people always need a point of contact. People always want to worship something that they can see. But God has always been in a realm where the human eyes cannot see. Even if you look at the children of Israel, just after being taken to the mountain of Sinai when Moses went up to receive the commandments, the first crime they committed was to make themselves a god which they could see. So now we are at a time where many people tell you that I need a tangible God. I need a God who does things that I can attest to. A God who can give me things that are physical, things that I can handle. You see, I don't understand why that is not a problem today. Because if you read the account of the golden calf, there was everything wrong with that. Everything was wrong in creating a God that you can see, because God wanted to be in the realm where you have to access him by faith. But nowadays the faith is based on what God can do, and that is very wrong. There is a lot of people now that are holding God hostage as to what can you do for me? What can your God do for me? If he cannot do anything for me, then I cannot worship him. But already he has done, he has made you, and he has brought you into existence. But alas, for people have stopped worshiping the creator and then started worshiping his creation. And in 2 Kings 23, you hear the account of the people who burnt incense to the sun and moon. Now it's now a system, an organized system, where people actually start to have a system of obeisance towards the creatures, towards attributes of a self-existent God, which is what we are being told is idolatry. What is an idol? We would say in this modern day, it's an icon, a god, a hero, a star, a celebrity, a superstar, an image, a totem, or a statue. But we have seen a lot of celebrities. Speaking now of the message of the hour, we have seen that everyone who gets behind the pulpit wants to strike a unique angle which will leave him, which will leave his name on people's mouths, other than leaving the name of God on people's mouths. You know, when Rabbi Yeshua ben Joseph, which is Jesus Christ, Rabbi Yeshua, the son of Joseph, when he was walking on this earth, people came to him and acknowledged that he was the rabbi. Look at Nicodemus. Nicodemus came to him by night and said, Rabbi, we know that thou art good. But it was sort of shameful for Nicodemus to follow Jesus Christ, so he had to come by night. But being shameful, it was just because he didn't have information. He was ill-informed. If he had been properly informed, he would have known that that was the right thing to do. But nowadays, what do we have? We have the reverse of everything. We have now men of God going by cover of night to the politicians. We know that thou art the rulers. We know that you are the kings of the earth, and what you are doing is good. We now have leaders of the church revering politicians. We have leaders of the church going to these politicians looking for help and endorsements, and then coming back and endorsing these politicians. So now the relationship between politics and the church has always been troubled. If you look at the Bible, we have prophets like John the Baptist being executed for standing with what God wanted. So it has always been like there is friction. That has been the grit between politics and the church. But nowadays, politics has fused itself into the church, and they have become one. And now you cannot speak out against an evil practice because it is endorsed by the same church that used to be against politics. And politics gives access to money, and money creates popularity. Popularity denotes what is a celebrity.
I had enough money to buy a beautiful Cessna Citation jet, cash. And since there's so much jealousy in this room tonight that I can feel over this, a few weeks later, I bought another one worth 3 times what that one was, cash. Act happy over my blessing, folks.
And then now we have celebrities, we have idols, and we worship them. They are now the rulers of day and night. And then you cannot speak if you do not quote from them. You cannot speak what opposes what they do. They have given a God to the world, a God who does everything that you want. But that is not the God that we know of. We know of a God who is sovereign, a God who is not twisted by what you want. But now we have been told that prayer can change any situation.
So right now, if you have ever thought of yourself in a Lamborghini, it's possible.
But that is not what the Bible teaches, because God will not change his mind. When he wanted to kill the Israelites, Moses prayed for God's anger to be stayed. Then God didn't kill them in that moment, but eventually they all died except for 2. And then now we were taught the opposite, that God can move mountains in your favor. And it's not bad to tell people that, but it's going to create a craving for miracles. And then when someone prays, there has to be a miracle. We are watching for the miracle. Now it's no longer in God's decision, the power, but it's now in, can the minister give a miracle to you? Can the minister make a miracle happen? And we know now ministers can tell you that I'm giving you this blessing, receive this, receive that. That's basically a heresy, because it's God who's supposed to donate to you according to your need. Now if this minister preaches, he has to make you feel that he is vindicated. He has to poke holes at vein jangling. He has to come and give you endless genealogies that do nothing but minister questions to you, and then, but to them that don't know what's happening, they dive in, and then they succumb into the miracle charlatans, and they follow them.
Yes, Father. Is this heaven? Yes, Father. Is it heaven? Yes, Father. I have a woman here. Yes. What do you have to say about her? Oh, I should ask her, who is Sibo? Sibo. Who is Sibo? Okay.
But remember, the Bible says the miracles shall follow, these signs shall follow them that believe. Meaning, them that believe are in front of the miracles. Those that are behind, pointing at the miracles, are the ones that are observers. But now the whole church has been turned into a bunch of observers, observing fake miracles. Because if the miracle lifestyle is fused into your life, then you don't see any difference. You live a normal life. But the people who are outside, they look at your life and it looks miraculous because it's being followed by signs and wonders. But to you, you are in there living a normal life. But now you cranking it. That's why you have to make testimonies. That's why you have to record testimonies and show people that, hey, look, it's happening. But we don't need to see that. We don't even need to know you. Because those miracles are part of your life. And we also have miracles that are part of our lives. And we don't care about demonstrating these and showing these to people. Because when we believe, the miracles follow us. We do not follow them. So now, if you combine reverence and adoration, you create worship for a deity. Look at how much you revere and how much you adore. That is the border between normal human interaction and worship. The more you adore and revere, it starts becoming worship. And now, before you know it, you're worshiping a man. So, why God will always be angry at us and God will always be issuing punishments, and why God will eventually neglect us and turn his back, it's because we ceased worshiping God a long time ago. And I always said, like, if a wrong definition of God will create an atheist, whether you like it or not, because you're going to create expectations that are not supposed to be there. And people are expecting God to do things that he never promised. For example, God never said, I'll give you chariots, I'll give you vesture, I'll give you this and that. God never said that. But now we are forcing it to appear as though God said all of those things. But it's not God, it's a person we put in place of God. In the book of 1 Timothy, if you go to the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 1, verse 3, it says, As I besought thee to abide still at Ephesus, when I went into Macedonia, that thou mightest charge some that they teach no other doctrine. So the moment you bring any other doctrine save what Paul preached, you're going against the mission. Neither give heed to fables and endless genealogies, which minister questions rather than godly edifying, which is in faith, so do. Now, this means that the moment you give something that is not authentic to in front of a congregation, the ones that are trying to stick to the truth, they will have questions in their head like, is this so? We have seen numerous dubious testimonies that are virtually made up, but these, they don't help anything, but they just minister more and more questions. And if they attract people to the churches, they are attracting people for the wrong reasons. And now you have to fuel these wrong reasons as the minister. That's why you see now the ministry becomes vain, because now people are there for fables. So now it will become vain because you have to give them more and more fables to keep them hooked, because where there is no fables, they can't continue waiting they have to look for more fables. That's how the people will be having itchy ears. So that the moment you stop giving them the fables that attracted them, then they go to look for other fables. Verse 6 says, from which some having swerved have turned aside into vain jangling. That's all I'm saying. You will preach a vain message if you want to please the people that you attracted, the politicians that you attracted. You will start preaching a vain message to please the politicians, to please the evildoers that are full in your congregation, just because you do not want to stick to what Paul preached. 3:2, 1 Timothy 3:2, it speaks about the qualifications of what a bishop must be. 17 requirements, if you look at them. 17. The bishop must be blameless. Blameless. The husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality. These are all taboos in today's society, because there is no hospitality, there is no vigilance, no soberness at all in the ministry. It's just like a chaos. It's a chaotic environment. But now, if you read chapter 4, verse 1, now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times shall some depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrine of the devil, because money is seductive. I started noticing the ministers in the message swaying from a true gospel and swaying into preaching about miracles, preaching about how God wants to give you a fleet of cars. Newsflash, God doesn't want you to have a fleet of cars. There's nothing to do with your salvation. That is, if you well business minded, or if you know where to steal, you can have a fleet of cars. If you have an income that allows you to have a fleet of cars, then you can have a fleet of cars. But God will not bless you with that. That is not a blessing. That is a seducing spirit that will lie to you that God will bless you by a fleet of cars. But I noticed, like, I was very, very young then, I think 16, 17, but I started noticing that, okay, the gospel is changing into a gospel of miracles, fleets of cars, healing, and it's becoming Billy Graham all over again. It's becoming T.L. Osborne all over again. But now it's a glorified version of the healing revival, which now comes with fancy blessings, fancy cars, sleek clothes, and overseas destinations. Which is all wrong if you look at what Paul preached. Paul was preaching a shredding gospel, saying, lay aside every weight. But now we are preaching a gospel which accumulates. We want everything. But then, how are you going to be raptured? You did not even preach about what the rapture is. The rapture is a mystery to your congregation. And the rapture is a concept that you dread, because you're not even sure, are you going or are you not? So I strongly disagree with the gospel which is being preached these days. It's a gospel that has found its way to earth from the pits of hell, and it's a gospel that has to be dismissed at any given opportunity.